All right, good morning, everybody. On the morning walk, another day to wake up, be grateful, be able to see, smell, hear, walk, think, so many things. But yeah, crazy. Let's say reflections I got yesterday. I was able to spend some time with some good friends at a barbecue. Couldn't get a picture. I'm pretty upset about that. But we had a burgers, some steaks. Good time, very good time. And then ended up going to meet some other friends. And going to bed a little bit late. That's okay. But just learning a lot in terms of how much I've been able to change in the short time that I've been doing all this stuff. And I mean that in the sense of like me focusing on one thing, which has been God and the habits that connect me, has been able to change everything else simultaneously. Like the way I think, what I relate to, my body, thoughts, especially like my desires even, or how attached I was to certain things I would do or want to do. And the way I can explain is, once you focus on the right thing, which is basically the truth and how to live, everything else will start to take care of itself. I used to think before, if I want to change something, I have to do it individually. Like, change my thoughts. I should start thinking new thoughts, writing new thoughts, maybe like affirmations, things that, do work in us. But really, when you focus on the truth, which is God, the way to live, everything else literally changes itself. Like I was telling my coach the other day, the way I think now and the thoughts that come to my mind are almost 180 compared to what I was thinking before, which was things of all flesh. Like, how do I feel? Maybe thinking about a vice, maybe thinking about girls, or how hungry I was, or things like that. That is all the devil trying to use your flesh and your desires to distract you. But once I've been able to connect more with the source, the signal, God, and just try to stay in that place, which is with gratitude and peace, staying in that space, it's literally like everything else underneath it, which is the mental, physical, it starts to change as a result. And one thing I heard, which is really good, is like, if you want to change your life, change your thoughts. But I would go as far as to say is like, if you want to change your life, make the focus higher than yourself. If you want to change your life, you're making it about you. But my whole focus these few months, especially recently, has been on like, how can my habits, connect me closer to God? And basically, how can I glorify God with my habits? So like, people ask, how can I wake up for 40 every day? How do I not drink? How do I not want to, have casual sex or call somebody over, have sex, or some of these desires like that. And it's like, I didn't see it, but I see it now as my whole actions are based on how would God see what I'm doing, right? And he's always watching, but what he looks at is not what you have, is your intentions. So, some people, or myself actually, I used to do things, with an intention, but show it differently. So no one can see that except for God. Like, you could present yourself one way, and some people are good at this. I've always been authentic and never really hide, or everything shows on my face. I'm a very honest person in that sense. But what I mean is, no one could see your true intention except yourself and God. And sometimes you don't even know what your true intention is, but God knows. So maybe you want some things, you change your behavior slightly for a way in order to get that, but you think you actually want to change, but God knows the true intention behind why you're changing. And what I mean to say with this is like, that is what true alignment is. When you are doing things and you are true aligned, means everything is, you know, in one place. So your thoughts, words, and actions, you're doing something because you authentically want to be doing that thing. And the result from it almost doesn't matter because, yeah, like I said, everything is aligned and you're at peace and you don't need anything from what you're doing. When your intentions are not pure, it's because you're doing something for a specific result, and you know as soon as you get that result, that will change. Crazy if you think about it that way. But that's one thing I learned was when, for instance, I was going out with women. So my intention was just to sleep with women, you know, but men change the way they behave to facilitate a result. So it could be leading a girl on, you know, which is not being aligned. It could be presenting yourself maybe as someone that has something to put yourself in the radar of that person. I've done all these things. I mean, that's total disalignment. And what that does is it may get you a result in the world, but your heart knows that wasn't yourself and you were aligned, and God knows more than ever, more than anything. And he may get you that result for a small period, but this alignment over a long period of time, it hurts you more than anybody else. And I've seen it with myself, and I've seen it in countless other scenarios. And it's crazy, like I said, the only way to really change that is to begin to put your focus on something else other than yourself. So when I'm out here doing my morning walks, you know, have the habits, see beautiful sunrise in the back. Like, I've only been able to do this and keep up this routine or these habits because I don't do it for me. I do it for God, for him to see how I've literally changed because of him, but you know, why I want to change more for him and just remove those desires, because I live with desires and it's crazy how much it distracts you. Like, it's like I said, we're put here for a bigger purpose, but when you look down, you can think about that macro, but you look down micro, you don't realize how much your flesh deters you from the bigger picture. Like, when you're not thinking about something like spirituality or God or what you're put here for, you get so carried away with like these simple desires, something as simple as food, like desserts. Like, you don't, like, the devil just really strings you along. And for men, I think they have more desires, more things to deal with, especially like lust is a big one, food, sleep. Like, there's so many small, you could say, vices or bridges to vices, which is basically just you getting lost completely. But there's so many like expressways. Think about you going on a highway and there's so many like lanes that you can easily go to, and they have like, you know, something shiny that you think is there and that you can get off on. And it just changes the whole game, which is essentially you finding out what you're here to do, right? Like, why God put you here, why, out of all the things that could have happened, or ways that, basically all the ways that you couldn't have been put here. If you think about it, the odds of you being born, I think someone said this, is like, I don't know, 1 million or some billion people rolling dice and it all landing on the same number or something like that. I don't know the exact statistic, but the odds of you being born is literally insane. You being able to especially see, hear this message, experience life, smell, walk, breathe. I don't know, like, there's so many things that we take for granted, and it's like, you think it's just granted to you. Like, it's just, yeah, it's normal, you know, I just wake up every day. But you don't see that, like, you have things that are inside you that were given to you, you know, on top of all these things that God wants you to experiment and use to help others. And it just becomes clearer and clearer to me as I, you know, look up and focus on that, but also remove the desires, or the desires remove themselves, better Because on this journey, I wouldn't have been able to, combat lust, which is the final boss for men, or other vices, like I said, alcohol, drugs, even like porn, masturbation. These are like big ones for men now. These are things that all men battle with and they don't say. And the only way to combat vices is literally with focusing on God. You can't win these battles by yourself, because the way I see it is, if you don't have God, you're fighting the devil with, he has a sword and you have a wooden little stick and you're trying to combat the devil. But when you have God, you can combat these devils that are attacking you every day, and you have a reason, because you know why you're doing it and the bigger picture. And that's the craziest realization I got, especially after yesterday. And when you go out and you see people, especially on the street, and how their purpose of going out is to fulfill some desire. Could be, like I said, mostly men trying to meet women. Could be they want to go for a drink. They want to indulge in some kind of vice. But I just don't, now looking back, I was there only 2 years ago. So I can't be someone to judge and be like, oh, you guys are doing everything wrong. But I can see now why people are stuck in that cycle. And it's because their ego's not letting them choose or see something else to believe in. They only think that it's their ego that they have to live for, their desires. And I thought that was me for a long time. I couldn't understand this message at all, even 2 years ago. Because when you live for desires, that's all you see. You just see the feeling, or you just look for a new feeling that you haven't felt before, which is, the devil trying to use your ego to, that's how he uses your ego. He uses your ego to try to give you this feeling. But you realize that feeling is after chasing it and getting those desires, you realize that feeling is false. And they say everyone has to have, areas of their life figured out, especially men, money, finances, body, relationships, things like that. But everyone, especially in the West, misses the biggest one, which is spirituality. And this is the one that helps you fight all the battles, because people think battles are mental or physical, but battles are all spiritual. Like I said, when you're fighting your desires, the devil has a sword and you have a stick. When you're trying to battle the devil with your just mental and physical assets. But when you have God in the picture, like it's a different level. And you do things that aren't even you. Like me waking up sometimes, it's not even me. Like if I were to force myself to wake up 4:40 every day, I would have stopped 2 months in, 3 months in. Cause like, what's the point, Because for your desires, it makes no sense, because your desires are just the devil. Like, oh man, you're tired, just go back to bed. Or like, oh, you're not getting girls from this, you're not getting money from this. Like, why keep doing this, right? So it's so easy to quit when you just bank on your mind or, the physical. But when you put your faith in something else and do it that is when you actually grow. And that is when you surpass all expectations you had of yourself or people have had of you, which doesn't matter. But that's when you hit a new level, because it's not even you doing it anymore. It's you putting your faith in something above you, energy above you, that gives you that extra boost. I'll give you a good example. It's like you playing Mario Kart and everyone doesn't have the power-ups, but you do. That's how it feels like to play life when you're living spiritually and have something spiritual to look up to. When it's just you, your ego, your thoughts, and like, oh, what am I getting out of a situation? How do I feel? You're just chasing highs, but you don't know why. You never realize it's just for your flesh, but you don't realize that it's literally a path to nowhere. And like I said, some people we'll see it, but turn an eye. I was like that for a very long time, and that's why I can give you this message 2 years after I was in clubs till 7 a.m. only thinking about women, only thinking about how I can escape my life, only thinking about how I can feel some kind of high with some kind of drug so I can not look at my reality and face my reality and hate the reality that I was creating because I was avoiding everything. So there's people that will never face, you could say, that monster or that task or want to go up that hill that is fixing their reality and fixing the way they operate. So they'd rather just escape with lust or desires or vices. And I mean, if that's you, you know, this message is not for you. You'll never resonate with this. Your ego won't let you even understand what I'm saying because it upsets the ego. If you're at a place and you've been chasing desires and you feel worse, you know, what the hell's going on? Like, for instance, give an example. My desire for the longest time when I was going out was threesomes. There's one. Happened. The feeling a man gets when he, you know, in his head of that experience is much bigger than the actual experience of what happens. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a cool experience for the physical or for the flesh, but that's when I realized to start to see that, like, the ego and the devil and the way it tricks you into these feelings it promises you or you see as a purpose for what you're doing, it's all a big lie. And that's when I started to see, like, okay, if this is how it actually is, in my mind it was, you know, what else am I being lied to by the devil with? And that's when I started to, like, think of, like, okay, this is not, there's something going on here. There's some kind of sham going on here. And that was, like, for me, in terms of, like, the ego, that's, like, the biggest experience that I wanted with that. And I had other ones as well. I mean, whatever happened with that. But when I got that and, like, the expectation was much bigger than the reality, I'm like, that's when my soul started to come in and, like, you know, that's when it like had that emptiness. I'm like, yeah, this thing of just chasing desires is not a thing for me. Like, I thought I can do it for the rest of my life and, like, more experiences, but once you have something like that, like, and you don't, you know, that feeling is not the one that you worked for or, like, the one you're working for in your head, because that's all you're doing when you're chasing a goal or some kind of, you know, desire. You're chasing a feeling by meeting that reality. That's all it is. So when I experienced that reality and the feeling wasn't the one that, you know, I was expecting, that's when everything changed. That's when that was, like, the beginning, like, the butterfly effect of me finding this path and living this path. Because, yeah, like I said, most people will never experience that, men per se, in that area. And I experienced that, and I was like, yeah, it's not what it is. So I was like, okay, there's something else here. There's you know, why do I feel like, you could say, worse after this in a different area? If I didn't know it was my soul calling for something else. And that's when everything started to, like, you know, really take effect. And God started to come in and be like, okay, you know, a little bit of regret here, you know, starts to steer you away with regret, shame, guilt. So eventually, you know, that's when he started to, like, move me away from these things. I was still in that scene and stuff like that, but soon enough, I'm like, yeah, this is not it. So, you know, he led me away from the attachment I had to feeling something, because that's all desires are. That's how desires are used against you. That's how vices are used against you. If you think about it, you're addicted to a feeling that something gives you. That's all it is. So when you realize that the game is actually about peace, and God trying to give you that, and cutting out all the noise and getting the signal, the noise being distractions, desires, vices, everything that tries to give you a feeling that is fake, that is when the game changes. But I mean, some people have to just chase and see that for themselves. You know, how are you feeling? You know, what are you doing what you like to do? Things that like actually matter more in the macro as opposed to the micro. But like I said, to briefly sum everything up, the whole path is not possible, the whole journey is never possible, and will end much sooner if you're just doing it for a result or the flesh or ego. If you're doing it for God and put your faith in God to guide you through the days where you basically physically can't do it, that's when everything changes. So I want to throw that out there because that is more and more of the reflection and things that I get as I go out and see how people operate, because that's all it is. How are you operating and why are you operating that way, and questioning that. And it's something you'll see is mostly just programmed into you. You don't question the way why you chase something or why you're going after something, but I just told you the reason why. Is because you want a feeling, and you've been programmed with feelings. Even for the smallest thing of like a TV commercial, it draws you in with a feeling you'll get of purchasing something from that company or that business. That's all. You know, people buy off feelings, they don't buy off logic. So if you realize that, and you have peace, which is the highest frequency, and gratitude, and you don't base yourself off feelings, think about how much you can get done when everyone else is getting distracted with the feeling of a girl or touching a girl or being with a girl, or the feeling of getting money and spending money on something. Everyone's chasing feelings while you're looking for God and trying to get peace. Think about how much the game changes, literally. So that is the message I want to leave you guys with. Stop letting the devil fuck your life, literally, with feelings and promises that are not real. Because like I said, once you get those desires, that the ones that you thought were, if this happens, fuck, I'm gonna feel like this, and then you feel like this, you're like, shit, like it still goes good, don't get me wrong, but it's not really that worth it, you know what I mean? And that's when you're like, okay, you get above the thing. You start to get more macro thinking as opposed to these micro things of like, oh fuck, how do I like, I want to get this so I can feel this way, and like you start to like, you think very micro. Once you start to think macro, you're like, oh shit, okay, I get how this works now, and you start to adjust your behavior. So stop letting the devil guide you. Find God. Allow yourself to find God, and that is when you will do things that will make you unrecognizable, even surprise yourself. And the path to that is starting with, I would say first removing, allowing yourself to remove, but your ego just wants you to keep adding. So I would say add a little bit of a book of spirituality. Add something that can influence you slowly. And then from there you start to, blossom that area. And because like I said, the ego is the enemy of faith, of God. The ego is the devil, and you working for the devil. It's abbreviation for literally edging God out. That's what your ego does. So if that is what primarily you're driving off of right now, which is 99% of society, then you have to influence it slowly and put more faith. So I recommend a book, the one I read every morning, Jesus Calling, any kind of small book where you can read a scripture a day. And like I said, your ego is gonna basically vomit internally, because it's the devil. It's like you throwing holy water in the devil. That's where your ego is. It's the same thing, but it's the path forward. Because if you have a hardened heart, which is the ego, a stronger ego is just a hardened heart, you'll never be able to find faith, and you'll always be living for these desires and literally being enslaved to the devil and him just guiding you nowhere. And years go by, decades go by, and you realize, fuck, I did nothing with my life, because the whole time I was just chasing something that wasn't even real. And that's when it'll hit you, but then that's when it's too late. So of course you have to influence yourself now with God. Put him in the picture and start to live for something greater than greater than your earthly desires that you think are you but are not actually you, because what you are is actually peace and spirit. What the devil tells you are is a desire and a feeling, and you getting that desire, and that's basically, the goal of life is to fill your goal or accomplish your goals. And don't get me wrong, everyone has desires and things they want to accomplish, but it will come to you when you're ready. You don't have to chase it. It's not something you have to chase, because the devil tells you to chase for a feeling. And people want things faster for a feeling. It's all, like I said, a game of having peace or chasing feelings with the devil. So that is a message, very long, but something to reflect on, especially on this Sunday, where you're either connecting more with God or we're connecting with the devil yesterday and recovering. So, or walking with the devil. Anyways, much love. Don't take this personally. If you are currently in that situation, or don't let your ego take this personally, even though it's very hard. Try to have an open heart. And like I said, let God into the picture with something as small as a book with one scripture a day. And you'll see how much over time, with the right habits on top of it, removing the right things, you start to let him into your life. And yeah, it's crazier than any feeling you chase, any desire the devil promises you with a feeling. It's much bigger, because you finally get to feel peace, which is what the spirit and the soul wants. It's peace. And I'll say this before we end off. We are spiritual beings living a physical experience, not physical beings living a spiritual experience. So we'll end off with that. Otherwise, all the best. And yeah, enjoy your Sunday.